Gary Gragg here, Golden Gate Palms, and you never know when you're going to have to make a video when you see a really cool plant. If I knew I was going to make a video, I would have combed my hair and shaved and looked prettier. Sorry, you'll have to put up with it. Anyway, I'm out here in Blackhawk, California, all right? Blackhawk is really far inland over the Berkeley Hills, away from the bay, where it gets relatively cold out here. It doesn't have the bay to keep it warm. Now, back in 1990, it actually got down to 14 degrees in Danville, somewhere in Danville, obviously not right here because this is a really good microclimate that I've discovered. Now that's noteworthy because, you know, it's a baseline for how cold it can get in this region. Once you get up on these hilltops, it's totally different. You can have frost-free conditions. Maybe not that year, but certainly warmer than 14 degrees. Now, I just planted a bunch of trees up here across the street, and we planted some really cool stuff. Bismarckia, if you know what that is, some king palms, a yucca rostrata, blue ones, really pretty, and the needle palm, Rhopidophyllum hystrix. Look those up, those are great trees. They're probably the rarest trees out here in Blackhawk right now. Now, what I want to talk to you about though is this place across the street that I found. This beautiful garden, it's Mediterranean. They've got all kinds of cool palms. They've got canary palms back here, big giant multi-trunk queen palm, and but that's not exactly why I'm making this video, because those are pretty common palms. So the thing I want to show you is my brand new truck. Check this out. It's purple. It's got the cool 70s style wheels on it. It's a little bit disco, but I think it's going to make me look really sexy riding around town. It's actually not what. It's not my truck. What's behind the truck is what's really cool. Come on over here. This is what I want to talk about. This is the Kentia Palm. This palm is called Howea foresteriana. It's from the forest of Lord Howe Island, Northeast Island off of Australia, okay? It's from a very cool, tempered island. It doesn't freeze there. It doesn't get too hot. So what does that mean? It means you need to replicate its climate. This palm is probably one of the most tender palms we sell at Golden Gate Palms in Richmond. And there are not a lot of places in the Bay Area you can rely on this palm to grow well, especially not this far inland. I was really surprised to see this here, but it tells me a lot of things. Okay, you can see it's in pretty good shape. And it's got pretty good green color on it, doesn't have any burn on it. And I'm thinking, like, why is this plant able to exist out here where I know it gets cold generally? Okay, this thing's only hardy to 28 degrees. If you can grow this, you can grow a mango tree here. So that's how tender this plant is. Now, when you look around, we're way up on top of a hill. This whole hillside is oriented to the south. So it builds up heat during the winter time, and you get some really good ambient heat buildup quality. Now, on the other side of this hill, there's another side of this hill, and it's north facing. It's gonna be colder, clammier, and the overall temperatures are gonna be lower, and things like this are not gonna thrive there. So that's the first thing it has going for it, okay? The other thing you can see here is the street. On these improved neighborhoods, the street's always the lowest spot. There's nothing in front of the street. There's no fence that will dam cold air. Cold air is heavy. It moves off of hillsides and especially moves off of gardens to the lowest spot, and it follows it out like a river system down to the bottom of the valley. And I guarantee you, where they took that 14-degree temperature reading was at the bottom of the valley where all this cold air rushed down to. So you want to get high up on a hilltop if you want to grow tropical plants in the Bay Area. So you can dump all your cold air onto some guy's yard down at the bottom of the valley who doesn't like tropicals. It'll work out perfectly. So again, the next thing that's going on with this tree, besides the fact that all the cold air rushes to the street and runs down uninhibited, unblocked, this tree cannot have blasting full sun in Danville. It gets 105, 110 degrees out here. So what's it doing to prevent sunburn? If you look up above us, it's surrounded, especially on the south side. On this side here, we have big redwood trees and Mexican fan palms that are blocking the worst of the midday sun for this plant. So it gets filtered light. It also has a plant that I would consider extremely ugly. It's called a sycamore. I think there's a reason they call it sycamore, because it looks sick more often than not. Anyway, the plant shouldn't even be here. I don't know who planned Blackhawk. They planted these things all along the road. It's ridiculous. It's the biggest leaf-blown mess you've ever seen come November. But that's another story. But that sycamore will block the afternoon sun from coming in on this tree. Cool thing about the sycamore, it loses its leaves in the wintertime. In the wintertime, when you need heat, it lets it in on the side that's most important, the last bit of sunshine during the day. So normally you want to grow this plant underneath cover, underneath bigger evergreen trees where it's really cold, places inland where it gets freezing temperatures. That way the canopy above it will prevent the frost from coming down onto the plant. But in this case, there's really nothing directly above it. There's an arbutus marina that's partially covering it on one side, then it's open air. So that's another remarkable thing that this thing is doing so well. So again, that shows you there's just no frost coming down here. There's no frost burn on this plant anywhere. It looks like a few years ago, there was a little bit of frost. See that? That's frost damage right there. So we do know that it had a frost, but it hasn't had a frost in a few years. The frost that it did have way back when, probably 2-3 years ago, was not fatal, it's just superficial. So anyway, the moral of the story is that you can grow all these cool things given the right conditions. If this plant were planted 30, 40 feet away somewhere else, it'd probably die. It makes that much difference to have the right microclimate.